When I opened the little velvet box, I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was just so absurd. Inside sat a scratchy, knitted scarf. Beige. Lumpy. And clearly handmade by someone who'd never actually seen a scarf before. The tag still dangled from the side, "Will blend clearance." "Do you like it, Mom?" my son asked, his voice bright, expectant. I looked up, and there he was, my boy, grown into a man with a Rolex watch and a wife who sparkled like a Christmas ad. "I love it," I lied softly. And then I saw her, my daughter-in-law Emily, sitting on the couch beside him, holding up a diamond necklace like it was the crown jewels. A diamond necklace worth $25,000. "That's stunning," I managed, forcing a smile. She tilted her head, the diamonds catching every bit of the afternoon sun. "Isn't it?" He surprised me after brunch. He said I deserved something real this year. My fingers tightened around the wool scarf. Something real. My son Michael had once said those same words to me when he gave me my first Mother's Day card as a kid. He'd scribbled, "For the realest mom in the world." And I'd cried, because I believed it. Now, watching him grin at his wife, watching him sip his champagne and adjust the sleeve of his designer suit, I realized that boy was long gone. The man sitting before me cared more about appearances than people. But the betrayal didn't end there. After lunch, when Emily went to take photos for her holiday post, Michael followed me into the kitchen. He leaned against the counter, hands in his pockets, looking too casual for what came next. "Mom," he started, "I was hoping you could help me out with something small." I raised an eyebrow. "Small?" He smiled, that salesman smile that used to mean, "I crashed the car but you're going to forgive me." "The mortgage payment this month," he said. "It's a bit tight with the new renovations, and well, Emily's boutique just launched. You know how it is." There it was, the real gift he wanted. Not the scarf, not the gesture, money. Always money. I stared at him, letting the silence stretch. "You just bought a $25,000 necklace, Michael." He shrugged. "It's an investment piece. It'll hold value." I set down my glass of water. "And my retirement account? That's an investment too." He gave a short laugh. "Mom, don't make it sound like a big deal. It's just one payment. You've always helped me out." I took a breath. "When you were in college, yes. When you were starting your first job, yes. But this." He leaned closer, voice dropping. "Emily can't find out I asked, okay? She thinks we're fine financially. And she's under a lot of pressure from her family. You'd be helping us both." So that was the motive. The image. The status. I could almost see it, Emily posting the necklace on Instagram, the caption full of love and luxury, while behind that perfect photo, my son was quietly bleeding me dry to keep up the illusion. I wanted to yell to shake him, to remind him that I raised him better than this, but instead I just asked, "How much?" He hesitated. $5,000. I laughed bitterly. $5,000 for a mortgage payment? Or for her next designer bag? He frowned, defensive. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Michael? You're lying to your wife, you're asking your mother for cash, and you think that's normal." He crossed his arms. "You don't understand how things work now. You've been retired for years. People expect more, nicer things, better homes. You can't just live small and call it noble." The words stung more than I expected. Live small. I'd spent 30 years working double shifts as a nurse so he could go to private school, so he could have piano lessons, so he could live big. And now apparently, that sacrifice made me less. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I can't help you this time." He stared at me like I'd slapped him. "Wow," he said finally, shaking his head. "After everything I've done for you." I blinked. "Everything you've done for me?" He didn't answer. He just walked out, scarf trailing in his hand, my own gift, left crumpled on the counter. I stood there a long time after they drove away. The house felt heavier than usual, quiet but not peaceful. When I finally sat down, I noticed a small envelope under the scarf. My name was written in Emily's flawless handwriting. Inside was a Christmas card, glossy, embossed, and a note. "To Ruth, Merry Christmas. Thank you for raising such a generous man. You truly did something right." Love, Emily. Generous. The word burned. I looked again at the scarf, the loose stitches, the uneven pattern, and realized something I hadn't before: this wasn't even new. The fabric smelled faintly of perfume, faintly of her. She hadn't bought it. She'd re-gifted it. It wasn't my son's doing, it was hers. That's why she looked so smug when I opened it. Why he looked so tense when I asked about money. They were in it together, the show, the performance, the image of wealth. They thought I'd never know the difference. But I did. And I wasn't going to let them make me the fool anymore. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat at my desk. I opened my laptop, pulled up my bank accounts, my will, my property papers. They were all in my name, every penny I'd saved, every square foot I'd earned through years of night shifts and holidays spent alone at the hospital. I'd once planned to leave most of it to Michael, assuming he'd need it for his own children someday. But now? No. He'd already shown me what he valued: appearance over honesty, wealth over integrity. So I started drafting something new. A letter. A plan. A reminder that even a quiet, gray-haired woman could burn an empire down with the right pen. Because greed always makes people sloppy, and I knew exactly where his would lead him. I smiled as I wrote the first line. To my beloved son, this is the last time you'll underestimate me. Before I tell you what happened next, what I found, and how I used it, let me ask you something. If your child chose money over you, would you still open your wallet, or close the door for good? 2 days after the necklace and the scarf, my phone buzzed with a tag I didn't ask for. Emily's face filled the screen: soft makeup, glossy hair, that $25,000 sparkle cupped between 2 manicured fingers. The caption read, "When you marry a man who sees you. Thank you to the most generous soul I know. Some people give words. He gives real love." Below that, a carousel, their remodeled kitchen, a champagne toast, a boomerang of the necklace flashing like a lighthouse. In the 4th photo, I was in the background by their sink, rinsing plates, my cardigan sleeves wet. The comments started stacking up fast. Queen. You deserve it. That man is a keeper. Goals. Some moms could learn from him. TBH. Some moms. I clicked the phone dark and set it face down, like a polite way to close a door someone kept opening without knocking. By afternoon, my sister Donna called, just to check in. She tried to make her voice light, but I could hear the teeth behind it. Ran into Emily's cousin at the pharmacy, she said. She said you had to leave brunch early because you were upset about money? I stared at the line in the counter where the laminate meets the sink. That's not what happened. She said you made a scene about the gift, Donna continued. Said you told them you were on a fixed income and couldn't keep up with their lifestyle. I didn't say any of that. So it's not true? It's a story, I said, and it isn't mine. Donna exhaled. You want me to set the record straight? Not yet, I said. First I want to see how far it spreads. It spread like dandelion seeds in a windstorm. A neighbor knocked with a casserole and 2 bright eyes. A church friend texted, "Everything okay? Heard you're under a lot of stress this season." My former charge nurse, Linda, sent a message, "Call me if you need help budgeting. There are classes for seniors now." I laughed once, ugly and small, and didn't reply. By Friday, Michael invited me to their New Year soft launch for Emily's boutique, an open house party with Prosecco in plastic flutes and mirrors everywhere you turned. I stood by the back while women I didn't know tried on silk tops that cost more than my monthly utilities. Emily floated from group to group, that necklace catching every light. Michael played host, shaking hands, laughing too loud, clapping shoulders like a mayor. When he reached me, he leaned in and kissed my cheek. "Glad you came, Mom." "Of course," I said. "Wouldn't miss your investment piece." He flinched, then smoothed it into a chuckle. "You and that word." A woman with glossy bangs appeared at his elbow with a clipboard. "Michael, we still need the gift letter for the business account," she said quietly, but not so quietly I couldn't hear. "Right," he said, turning to me. "Mom, tiny favor, purely procedural." He held out a single sheet on boutique letterhead. Family support statement. A line for my name, a dollar amount, a sentence about non-repayable assistance to help the young couple build generational wealth. I stared at him. Non-repayable. He smiled, teeth and charm. "It's for optics. Banks like to see family unity. We can fill the rest in later. Let me take it home, I said. He glanced around the room, calculating. It's easier if we finish it now. Easier for who? I asked. Because for me, it looks like signing a blank check. Mom, he murmured, that warning tone he used to use in the grocery store when he wanted me to stop comparing prices. Don't be difficult. Behind him, Emily laughed at something a customer said, then turned toward us, her face softening into pity so quickly I almost applauded the performance. She slid closer and touched my arm gently. No pressure, Ruth. We know things are tight. Just your name is fine. Things are tight. The woman with the bangs watched, pen poised. The two women in fitting rooms watched through the curtain slits. The man by the register watched while he pretended to ring up a lipstick. My cheeks burned, the kind of slow heat you feel when you're a kid and the whole class is waiting for you to read a word out loud. I set the clipboard on the table, smoothed the paper flat, and smiled. I don't sign anything at parties, I said softly. But thank you for asking. Emily's eyebrows tipped up just a touch. Of course, she said sweetly. Boundaries are important, especially when you're on a fixed income. The two women in the fitting rooms giggled. Michael's jaw flexed. He leaned close enough for me to smell the cologne I bought him last Christmas. Stop making this weird, he said. It's one signature. Then it can wait until Monday, I said. During business hours. With a notary who knows the law. He stared at me like he was looking for the brakes in a car he didn't know how to drive. Then he laughed, too loud. You heard her, folks, he announced to no one and everyone. Mom's old school. She likes doing it properly. A few chuckles. One sympathetic smile. Emily moved on, the necklace flashing, the story already writing itself without me. I left early. At home, the quiet was a blanket I could actually stand. My mailbox held a thin white envelope from a bank I don't use. Inside, thanks for your application for a preferred platinum card. We're excited to extend you a $20,000 limit. The line that mattered sat in tiny print near the bottom. Authorized user, Emily H. Carter. Application date, the same afternoon as brunch. I read it twice, the way you read a medication dose to be absolutely sure you don't hurt anyone by mistake. Then I laid it next to the scarf, her scarf, and laughed the same laugh from 3 days ago. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. The next morning, I drove to my bank with a folder of documents and a bag of small fury. The branch was quiet, post-holiday slow. A young manager with careful eyes and a tie a shade too bright introduced himself as Sean and asked how he could help. I want to put a hard lock on everything, I said. New passphrase. No wires. No transfers. No address changes. No authorized users without my face in front of a person. He didn't blink. We can do that. And I want to place a fraud alert with all 3 bureaus, I added. Someone filed a credit application in my name with my daughter-in-law as an authorized user. It wasn't me. He nodded, expression shifting from polite to protective. Let's start with passwords and flags, then we'll file the bureau alerts together. He typed, printed, slid a form. What passphrase would you like? I thought of the scarf. The clearance tag. The way she said real. Use this, I said. Real isn't expensive. He smiled at that. Memorable, he said, tapping it in. You'll get a text if anything moves. You'll get another if anyone tries. By the time I left, my accounts were Fort Knox and I had 3 confirmation emails from 3 bureaus sitting in my inbox like small shields. I drove to the county recorder next. A patient clerk with a sweater covered in tiny foxes helped me file an owner alert on my property. No deed recorded without in-person verification. It's not standard, she said, lowering her voice, but we see enough nonsense to know it helps. At home, I called Donna. I need a lawyer, I said. Someone who doesn't mind getting loud. She didn't ask why. I've got a name. Angela Price. Smart. Sharp. Smiles with teeth. Angela met me at a coffee shop that afternoon. Black blazer, notebook, no small talk. I laid out everything. Necklace, scarf, brunch, boutique, the gift letter, the credit card. She wrote as I spoke, underlining dates, boxing names. This is 3 tracks, she said finally, tapping her notes. 1. Image manipulation, reputation smears, social media digs. 2. Financial escalation, credit, gift letters, the slow creep toward your accounts. 3. Legal capture, anything that looks like estate planning or co-signing that moves your assets to them while you're alive or sets it up for after. She looked up. Have you signed anything for them in the past year? No, I said. But they tried to make me sign on New Year's. Good, she said. Then we're early. She slid me a pen. First, we do 2 letters, a cease and desist on any credit in your name, and a revocation notice to any bank or merchant that allowed an application without you in the room. Second, we file a police report for identity theft. It sounds dramatic, but paper scares people who dance on gray lines. Third, we draft a statement of capacity, your doctor signs it. No one questions your mind while we fight. Fourth, we redo your will and your beneficiary designations with 1 iron rule: no surprises, no loopholes, no way in unless you invite it. And Michael? I asked, voice smaller than I wanted. Angela's eyes softened, just once. We deal with him last. Because you're not here to parent. You're here to protect. I nodded. And the humiliation? She tilted her head. Shame is a free tool for people like them. We take it away by telling the truth before they can. A short post, your voice, no drama. No, I didn't sign a gift letter. No, I'm not on a fixed income. Please respect that I don't finance other people's images. Then you go quiet. Don't argue in comments. Don't feed the show. I sat with that and felt something inside me settle. Okay. Back home, I wrote the post exactly the way she said and put my phone in a drawer. 10 minutes later it buzzed like a trapped bee. I didn't take it out. The boutique party crowd found other things to care about by morning. The bank sent me a fraud case number. The credit bureaus flagged my file. Angela emailed drafts with subject lines that felt like armor: demand TO cease unauthorized use, notice of identity theft, clarification of capacity. Then the phone rang. Caller ID, Michael. Against Angela's advice, I answered. What are you doing? He asked, voice flat. No charm now. Just steel. Protecting myself, I said. You embarrassed me. You embarrassed Emily. Do you know how that looks? A public post? A police report? I know exactly how it looks, I said. Like a woman who worked 30 years is done paying for someone else's costume jewelry dreams. That necklace is not costume. That life is, I said. I'm not financing it. Silence. Then lower, you owe me. I laughed once, short mean. I owe you. I said. I fed you, housed you, educated you, sat up with you when you were sick, and cheered at every game. What is it you think I owe you now? My name? My credit? My pride? You're making this bigger than it is. You already made it big, I said. The minute you asked your mother for $5,000 while a stranger fastened a $25,000 necklace around your wife's throat. He breathed hard into the phone. If you won't help, then stay out of the way. I won't do either, I said, and hung up before he could. That night, Donna came over with pot roast and a look that said she'd drive the getaway car if I asked. We ate at my little table with the good napkins. She listened while I recounted the boutique scene. When I finished, she shook her head. He's playing to the balcony, she said. Make him speak to the judge. We weren't there yet. But the words sat between us like a compass needle turning. The next week tried to embarrass me 3 more times, and each time it brought a witness who refused to be embarrassed on my behalf. At the grocery store, a neighbor said, I heard you were in trouble. Mr. Adler from the hardware aisle leaned around the end cap and said, she's not. She's smart. At church, a woman murmured, it's sad you being on a fixed, and Reverend Martin, bless him, said from behind us, she's fixed all right, fixing the mess someone else made. Angela filed the police report. Sean at the bank called to say a second credit application hit a firewall and died. The county recorder sent me my first alert, attempted title inquiry on parcel 11. Angela smiled when I forwarded it. They're shopping options, she wrote. Good. Let them see the closed sign. Then came the dinner. The public one. The one meant to humiliate me into returning to my role in their show. Emily invited me to a family meal at their favorite steakhouse. When I arrived, she hugged me in the lobby like a reporter and guided me to a long table crowded with cousins I'd seen only at weddings. A crystal vase sat in the center with white lilies, and at each place, a gold envelope with our names. Theirs held photos of the necklace, the renovation, the boutique ribbon. Mine held a pamphlet, Dignity in Aging, when loved ones need our help managing finances. The table watched me open it. Michael cleared his throat, stood, and tapped his glass. Family, he said, we're so grateful you're here. Emily and I believe in taking care of our elders with grace. Mom insists she doesn't need help, but we want to. I stood too, calm. My napkin folded in my hand like a white flag I had already decided not to wave. You know what I used to do for a living? I asked the table. 30 years in an emergency room. People lied for all kinds of reasons there. Fear, pain, shame. And every time the chart, the record, told the truth. I slid a folder I'd brought onto the linen. So here's the chart, I said, and I kept my voice kind, because I wanted the truth to sound like a door opening, not slamming. Here are copies of fraudulent credit applications. Here's a letter from my bank flagging unauthorized attempts. Here's a police report number. Here's a statement from my doctor, in case anyone thinks this is about my memory. Here's the email where their boutique requested my name on a gift letter I hadn't agreed to sign. Silence took the table in both hands. Emily's smile thinned to a line. Michael's face went the color of cold meat. A cousin cleared his throat, then coughed. Somewhere, cutlery clinked as a waiter stopped moving. No one needs to choose sides, I said. You don't owe me anything, and I don't owe you an opinion. But you won't be asked to carry stories that aren't true. Not about me. Not about anyone. I sat. My hands didn't shake. The napkin lay folded like a final decision. We didn't finish the steaks. We didn't order dessert. Michael didn't make a toast. Emily didn't laugh for the camera. On my way out, a quiet aunt squeezed my forearm and whispered, "Good for you." Another relative avoided my eyes, then mouthed, "I'm sorry." In the parking lot, a cousin I barely knew said, "If you need a witness for anything, I saw the clipboard at the boutique." Humiliation didn't show up, after all. It sent its regrets. I slept that night. Hard, dreamless, clean. The next morning at 7:12, my phone buzzed with an alert from the county recorder. Attempted filing, Memorandum of Understanding, Grantor R. Hart, Grantee E.H. Carter. My chest went cold, then hot. 2 minutes later, Sean from the bank called, "Heads up, Ms. Hart. Someone tried to update your mailing address on your savings. We blocked it, but I wanted you to know." 10 minutes after that, a black SUV rolled into my driveway. Michael climbed out, jaw set, tie askew, a man in a charcoal suit behind him with a clipboard and a mobile notary seal clipped to his pocket. I opened the door before they could knock. The morning was bright and mean. The lemon tree out front threw shadows across the walkway. The man in the suit smiled the smile of someone who gets paid no matter what happens. "Mom," Michael said, voice already edged. "We're not doing this the hard way. We brought someone to help. Just a couple signatures to clear up misunderstandings." I looked past him at the notary and then at Michael. "You brought a stamp to my house," I said quietly. "So I wouldn't have time to read." "We're trying to save you from embarrassment," he snapped. "You made a scene at dinner." "No," I said. "I made a record." He took a breath, set his shoulders, and held out the top page. The header read, "Limited Durable Power of Attorney." Below it, a second page peeked out, "Memorandum of Understanding, Family Support." My heart beat once, hard, and then settled into a slow, steady drum I recognized from every code blue that ever ended with someone coming back. I turned my phone face down on the entry table and slid my hand to the side where the record button lived. "Come in," I said, stepping back and opening the door wide. "Let's make sure we all understand exactly what you're asking me to sign." Because humiliation had done its worst. Fear had finished its run. And I was done being the soft place his greed landed. I was ready to be the wall it broke against. Before I tell you what I said in front of that notary, and how quickly the man with the clipboard decided he'd rather be anywhere else, tell me this: when family brings a pen to your door, do you sign to keep the peace, or do you finally pick up your own? Michael's voice filled the doorway before he even stepped inside. Mom, don't make this difficult, he said, his tone clipped, impatient. This isn't about taking anything from you. It's about protecting you. Behind him stood the notary, a middle-aged man with thinning hair, khakis that had seen better days, and a tired smile that didn't reach his eyes. He held a clipboard close, like it might shield him if things went sideways. Protecting me? I said quietly. From what? Michael adjusted his cufflink, avoiding my eyes. From people who might confuse you. From scammers. From bad decisions. I let the silence hang for a moment. Outside, a dog barked, and somewhere down the street, a car door slammed. The morning sun hit his watch just right, flashing a brief spark across the hallway wall. Scammers, I repeated. You mean like the ones who file credit cards in my name? His face twitched, a single involuntary flicker, then went still. Mom, that was a misunderstanding. Emily didn't know the system autofilled your information. Autofilled my birthday, address, and social security number? I asked. He sighed, the long-suffering exhale of someone who believed patience was a favor he bestowed. This is exactly why we brought Mr. Jameson, he said, nodding toward the notary. He can walk you through everything. You sign, we clear up the confusion, and everyone moves on. The notary stepped forward, his voice soft and neutral, like a man reading from a script. Ma'am, this is a standard durable power of attorney. It just gives your son permission to handle basic finances on your behalf if needed. It's very common for... I used to be a nurse, I interrupted, smiling just enough to make him hesitate. You know what was also very common in my line of work? Patients who didn't read what they were signing. He blinked. Ma'am, it's perfectly safe. I'm sure it is, I said. For someone. I motioned toward the kitchen table. Let's take a seat. Michael followed, jaw tight. He sat across from me while the notary hovered by the counter. The papers looked innocent enough, all clean margins and polite fonts. But halfway down the first page in fine print, I saw the trap, grants full authority to act in all financial and legal matters in the absence or incapacity of the grantor. Absence. Incapacity. 2 words that could erase an entire lifetime with a signature. I looked up. So this means if I'm unavailable or confused, you can make financial decisions for me? It's just a precaution, Michael said quickly. Everyone does it eventually. Then why not wait until eventually? I asked. Why today? Why with a stranger at my door at 8 in the morning? His mouth opened, then shut again. The notary shifted uncomfortably. Let me guess, I continued. You and Emily are behind on something again. You need access to my accounts so you can temporarily move funds. He ran a hand through his hair, his composure slipping. Mom, this attitude isn't helping. I'm not trying to help, I said. I'm trying to understand. He stood up suddenly, pacing. You're twisting everything. I'm doing this for your safety. You've been posting online, talking to strangers about legal stuff. Do you know how that looks? People think you're paranoid. I tilted my head. And who exactly are these people? He stopped pacing. Does it matter? It does when they start whispering that I'm losing it, I said. That's what this is about, isn't it? You want me to look incapable so you can step in. His silence was answer enough. The notary cleared his throat. Ma'am, if you're uncomfortable. I'm not uncomfortable, I said. I'm documenting. I reached into my cardigan pocket and lifted my phone, still recording since the moment I opened the door. The red light blinked quietly. Michael froze. Mom, he said carefully. Turn that off. No, I said. I want to remember the moment my son tried to steal my life in broad daylight. His jaw clenched. That's not what this is. It's exactly what this is, I said. And you know what's funny? You think I'm old enough to manipulate but too old to fight back. He exhaled sharply, hands up like he was trying to calm a patient. You're overreacting. I've spent 30 years watching people die because someone else thought they knew better, I said, standing up. I'm done letting people make decisions for me. I turned to the notary. You can leave. Now. He hesitated, then quietly gathered his papers. Sir, he said to Michael, I think it's best if we. Michael snapped, wait outside. The man didn't argue. He slipped through the door, relief written all over him. When it shut, Michael's shoulders dropped. Why are you doing this? He asked softly. You're my mother. Yes, I said. And you're my son. The one I gave everything to. And now you're standing in my kitchen trying to take the rest. He stared at the table. It's not like that. It's exactly like that, I said. You're drowning in debt, Emily's business is bleeding money, and instead of fixing your own mess, you thought you'd make me your lifeboat. His silence cracked under the weight of truth. Finally, he said, you don't understand how hard it is to keep up now. Everyone our age. Stop, I said. Don't tell me about hard. You never scrubbed blood off hospital floors at 3 a.m. You never came home too tired to eat. I gave you comfort so you'd never have to learn struggle, and you turned it into entitlement. His eyes darkened. You're bitter. I'm awake, I said. And you're cornered. He laughed, a humorless sound. You really think you can turn this around? Who's going to believe you? Everyone already thinks you're slipping. That was the final piece, the threat, thinly veiled. The groundwork of his next move, declaring me mentally unfit, the worried son doing the responsible thing. I smiled, not kindly, but with the sharp satisfaction of someone who just spotted the flaw in the con. Oh, Michael, I said softly. You've already lost. He frowned. What do you mean? Everything you've tried today, I said, tapping the phone. Recorded. The police report? Filed. The fraud alert? Active. And just so you know, I gave copies of everything to my lawyer, the one who knows exactly what a power of attorney scam looks like. His face drained of color. You wouldn't. I already did, I said. And I sent a copy of the video to your bank's fraud division. So if you try to move a single cent, they'll see this conversation first. He stood frozen, all his slick confidence slipping through his fingers. I'm still your mother, I said quietly. So I'll give you one piece of advice, leave before you become a headline. He didn't move. For a moment, I thought he might cry. Then his expression hardened again, a flash of his father's stubborn pride. You'll regret this, he said. When you're alone. I've been alone before, I said. It's easier than being betrayed. He turned and walked out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. The notary's car peeled away a minute later. The house went still again, that same kind of silence that follows a storm. But this time, I wasn't trembling. I wasn't the victim waiting for the next blow. I sat at the table, opened my notebook, and began writing everything down. Time, date, details, witnesses. Angela's voice echoed in my mind. Document everything. Shame thrives in shadows. Truth shines in ink. When I finished, I poured myself a small glass of wine and stared out the window. The garden was overgrown, the sky heavy with gray, but I felt something almost foreign bloom in my chest. Peace, laced with purpose. He thought he could shame me into surrender. But I was done hiding. Because what my son didn't understand was this: you can only betray a mother once. After that, she learns how to fight with the kind of patience only a lifetime can teach. And I had just begun. Before I tell you what happened when the world finally saw the truth, when Michael's web of lies collapsed in public, let me ask you. If someone you love tried to steal your peace for their profit, would you protect your blood, or protect yourself? The courthouse smelled faintly of coffee and floor polish, the kind of scent that clings to old buildings and anxious mornings. I had been sitting in the front row for 15 minutes before Michael arrived, flanked by Emily and a lawyer who looked young enough to still believe charm wins cases. It wasn't a criminal trial, not yet. It was a petition hearing, in the matter of Ruth Carter's capacity and financial responsibility. Michael had filed it 2 weeks earlier, claiming I was experiencing cognitive decline and showing patterns of financial confusion. In simpler words, he was trying to have me declared unfit so he could take legal control of my estate. That was his endgame all along. Angela sat beside me, calm as ice. She had a dark blue folder open on her lap, color-coded tabs peeking from the sides like blades. She leaned over and whispered, "He's nervous. He filed too soon. He thought fear would keep you quiet. He's not wrong, I said softly. Fear did keep me quiet. Until now. The bailiff called the case. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s, gray hair in a tight bun, eyes sharp enough to cut lies before they hit the floor. She scanned the courtroom and nodded to both tables. Let's begin. Michael's lawyer stood first. His voice was smooth, rehearsed. Your Honor, my client is deeply concerned for his mother's well-being. There have been multiple incidents of erratic behavior, public outbursts, confusion about her finances, misplaced accusations of fraud. We are here today to ensure she receives proper support before a serious mistake is made. He gestured toward me like I was a fragile ornament. Emily dabbed at her eyes with a tissue she didn't need. The show had begun. When he finished, the judge looked at me. Ms. Carter, you and your counsel may respond. Angela rose. No theatrics, no smile, just a steady confidence that filled the room. Your Honor, my client is of sound mind and remarkable patience. What she has experienced is not confusion but coercion, an ongoing effort by her son and his wife to obtain control of her assets through deception and intimidation. We have evidence of fraudulent credit applications, unauthorized financial activity, and an attempted power of attorney execution under false pretenses. The young lawyer shifted, clearly unprepared for her precision. Angela opened the folder and approached the clerk. Exhibit A, she said. Audio recording of a conversation between Ms. Carter and her son during which he pressures her to sign legal documents she did not request. Michael's head snapped toward me. You recorded me? Angela didn't even look at him. Exhibit B, she continued, sliding another paper forward. A police report confirming identity theft in Ms. Carter's name, with an authorized user added without consent. Exhibit C, an affidavit from Ms. Carter's bank manager confirming multiple attempted account changes blocked due to fraud flags. Exhibit D, a statement from her primary care physician attesting to full mental competency. The judge raised an eyebrow. That's quite the stack, counselor. Yes, Your Honor, Angela said. It's also quite the betrayal. Emily's face flushed. She whispered something sharp to Michael, but his lawyer waved her off. The judge turned to me. Ms. Carter, would you like to speak? I stood, my knees steady. Thank you, Your Honor. I took a breath, feeling the weight of every sleepless night, every swallowed humiliation. My son believes that age makes a person weak. He believes that if he paints me as confused, he can rewrite the truth. But I remember everything, every late bill he ignored, every gift he called a favor, every lie he told to keep his wife shining online. I turned toward Michael. You called me paranoid, son. You said people would think I'd lost my mind. But what kind of man files credit cards in his mother's name and then claims she's losing hers? He looked away, jaw clenched. I raised you with honesty, I said, my voice shaking but clear. You learned to twist it into something profitable. But I won't let you steal what I've earned, not my money, not my name, and not my dignity. Angela placed a gentle hand on my arm, signaling I'd said enough. I sat down, heart pounding. The judge was still watching me, her expression unreadable. Michael's lawyer stood quickly. Your Honor, with all respect, emotions are not evidence. My client acted only out of concern. His mother's behavior. The judge raised a hand. I've heard enough. She turned to Michael. Mr. Carter, did you attempt to obtain a power of attorney for your mother's finances? Michael swallowed. I brought the documents, yes, but... Did she request them? No, but it was to. Did she sign them? No. The judge nodded. And did you authorize a credit application in her name? His voice faltered. It was Emily's idea. I didn't. The judge's tone sharpened. So you did authorize it? He hesitated, then muttered yes. A ripple of murmurs moved through the small audience, reporters, a few family members, maybe even one of Emily's boutique friends. Emily lowered her head, eyes darting. The judge sat back, tapping her pen once against the file. Mr. Carter, what you describe is not caretaking. It's exploitation. And it stops today. Michael's lawyer started to speak, but she cut him off with a look. This court finds no evidence of cognitive impairment. On the contrary, Ms. Carter demonstrates clear awareness and self-protection. The petition is denied. Additionally, this court refers the matter to the district attorney's office for review of potential financial abuse of an elder. Emily's tissue froze halfway to her face. Michael turned white. Angela nodded once, satisfied. Thank you, Your Honor. The judge wasn't finished. Ms. Carter, you may wish to file a restraining order. I would encourage you to consider it. People who try to take what isn't theirs often try again. I nodded. Thank you, Your Honor. I already have a lawyer who believes the same. Court adjourned. The bailiff called, "All rise," and I stood, feeling taller than I had in years. Outside, the hall was cold and bright. Angela squeezed my hand. You did beautifully, she said. Now we start the second part, making sure they can't spin the story back. Michael approached, face tight with fury and humiliation. Emily trailed behind him, her perfect image cracking at the edges. You didn't have to do that, he hissed. You've ruined us. I met his eyes. No, Michael. You ruined yourself. I just stopped helping. He opened his mouth to argue, but Angela stepped between us. Mr. Carter, she said calmly, any further contact with my client outside of legal counsel will be considered harassment. I strongly advise you to take the rest of your day to think about your next move. Emily grabbed his arm. Come on, she whispered, voice sharp. This is already a disaster. They walked away, two silhouettes of pride and panic disappearing down the corridor. I stood there a long time, watching the doors swing shut behind them. The courthouse hum quieted into the soft echo of footsteps and rustling papers. Are you all right? Angela asked. Yes, I said. More than I've been in a long time. We stepped outside into the cool afternoon air. The sky had that clean, post-storm brightness, like the world had been rinsed. Reporters loitered near the steps, their cameras eager for scandal. Angela gave me a small nod, my choice. I walked up to the nearest one, a woman with a microphone. Ms. Carter, she said, surprised. Would you like to comment? Yes, I said simply. Tell people this, getting older doesn't make you blind. It makes you see who truly stands beside you. And then I walked away. As we reached the car, my phone buzzed, dozens of messages, half from friends, half from strangers who'd seen the hearing broadcast online. Proud of you, Ruth. You showed real courage. You made me call my mother just to thank her. For once, I didn't feel like a victim in someone else's story. I felt like the author again. Angela smiled as she started the car. So, she said, what comes next? Peace, I said. And maybe a new scarf. One I make myself this time. She laughed, and the sound carried all the way down the courthouse steps, where the wind picked it up and scattered it into the sun. Before I tell you what happened after the verdict, what Michael did next, and how justice finally found him, let me ask you. If someone tried to erase your truth for their gain, would you forgive them when the world already knows who they are? The morning after the hearing, the world felt different, quieter, lighter, almost forgiving. The air that drifted through my kitchen window smelled faintly of rain and jasmine, and for the first time in months, I brewed my coffee without dread sitting beside me at the table. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. But all I felt was a deep, aching stillness, the kind that comes after a long storm finally burns itself out. Angela had warned me, justice gives peace, not always happiness. She was right. The court had ruled in my favor. Michael's petition was dismissed, the fraud investigation underway, and the DA's office had already contacted Angela for supporting documents. Still, when the quiet returned, it wasn't victory that filled it, it was grief. Grief for the son I'd raised, and for the part of me that still hoped he'd walk through that door and apologize. He didn't. 2 weeks passed before I saw him again. Not in person, but on the evening news. Local businesswoman under investigation for credit fraud, the anchor announced, her voice smooth, professional. Emily's boutique logo flashed on the screen, followed by clips of luxury photos, the necklace, the champagne, the store launch. Beneath it, the caption, owner linked to multiple unauthorized financial accounts. My heart didn't leap. It didn't break. It simply settled. The anchor continued, authorities confirmed the involvement of her husband, Michael Carter, as a possible co-applicant in several disputed transactions. Legal experts suggest the case may lead to charges of elder financial abuse. I stood there, mug cooling in my hands, the television painting soft blue light across my kitchen wall. There it was, the inevitable fall of people who built their lives on borrowed honesty. A few days later, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Ms. Carter. The voice was low, cautious. It was Michael. For a moment, I said nothing. Mom, he tried again. I need to talk to you. I leaned against the counter. Are you calling to apologize, or to ask for something? Both, he said quietly. I almost laughed. At least you're honest about that. He sighed. It's bad, Mom. The accounts, Emily's been questioned, and they froze everything. I didn't know it would go this far. You didn't know, I repeated. You tried to have me declared incompetent. You forged credit lines in my name. You sent a notary to my house. And now you didn't know. I just wanted to fix it, he said. I thought I could control it before it got worse. Control, I said softly. That's the word you've always loved. Control me. Control the story. Control the money. He was silent. Emily's gone, he said after a long pause. She left. Took her things and disappeared last night. I stared at the window, at the reflection of a woman who used to flinch at the sound of that voice. Not anymore. I'm sorry, Mom, he said, the words shaky and thin. I don't know what I was thinking. Yes, you do, I said gently. You were thinking about appearances. About what people would say if your life didn't shine like hers. And somewhere along the way, you started believing that being good wasn't enough if you didn't look rich doing it. He sniffed quietly on the other end. Can we start over? I closed my eyes. No, Michael. We can't start over. But we can start honest. What does that mean? It means you face what you've done. You tell the truth. You take responsibility, not for me, not for her, but for yourself. That's what men do. That's what I raised you to do. He didn't answer. I didn't expect him to. Goodbye, Michael, I said softly. Mom. Click. I hung up. And with that small sound, a lifetime of obligation finally lifted from my shoulders. The months that followed were quiet. Investigators interviewed me a few times. Angela handled most of it. The DA eventually filed formal charges for financial fraud and attempted elder exploitation. Emily fled the state, but Michael stayed, perhaps out of guilt or exhaustion or both. He pled guilty to a reduced charge and avoided jail time, but the conditions were strict: restitution, counseling, and a public record that would follow him for years. When the hearing ended, he walked past me in the hallway. No suit this time. No polished shoes. Just a tired man who'd finally run out of masks. He stopped, hesitated, and whispered, "You were right. Real isn't expensive." I nodded. No, son. It never was. Spring came quietly that year. My garden, neglected for so long, began to bloom again, tulips first, then lilacs. I spent mornings outside, coffee in hand, dirt under my nails, the air filled with something that felt like forgiveness but wasn't quite there yet. One afternoon, a small envelope arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photograph, Emily, standing in front of some unfamiliar shop, her hair shorter, her smile smaller. On the back, in neat handwriting, "I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve it." I slipped it into a drawer. Some things didn't need answers. That night, I sat by the window as the sun went down, the light spilling gold across the table. On it sat the old scarf, the scratchy, uneven one that started it all. I'd almost thrown it away once. But now, I saw it differently. It wasn't just a symbol of insult anymore. It was proof that people can lie with gifts, that love can rot under glitter, and that sometimes, the ugliest thing handed to you ends up revealing the most truth. I reached for a pair of knitting needles, slow and steady. It had been years since I'd made anything with my own hands, but it felt right. This time, I used soft blue yarn, real wool, the kind that warms without itching. As I worked, the rhythm of the needles matched the quiet beat of my heart. Loop. Pull. Breathe. Each stitch was a memory: the girl who worked night shifts, the mother who gave too much, the woman who finally stopped apologizing for surviving. By summer, I had finished the scarf. I folded it neatly and placed it in a small box with a note. Real love doesn't need diamonds. It just needs to be earned. Then I tucked the box away in my closet, beside old photo albums and letters from a time when family still meant safety. Maybe one day I'd give it to someone who understood, a granddaughter perhaps, or a friend who'd lost their way. But for now, it was mine. A reminder. A victory. A quiet kind of justice. People often ask me now, when they hear the story, if I ever forgave my son. The truth is, forgiveness isn't a door you walk through. It's a window you open, just enough to let the air back in. I haven't forgotten. I haven't excused him. But I've stopped letting his choices define my peace. He calls sometimes, short, careful conversations. He's working again, modest job, modest life. Maybe that's how he'll learn what real means. And me? I'm living small. Purposefully small. Not out of fear, but out of freedom. Because after everything, the lies, the greed, the courtroom and the scarf, I finally understood the lesson I was meant to learn all along. Money can buy a necklace. But dignity? You knit that yourself. Before I leave you with this, tell me one thing. If someone you love betrayed you for wealth, and the world finally saw the truth, would you open the door again? Or leave it closed and build your peace inside?